Hello, economic students. This is Mrs. Politsky, and I have your notes for Chapter 12, Section 1, Measuring the Nation's Output and Income. One of the things I want to mention is that this is the beginning of talking about macroeconomics. And macroeconomics is basically, rather than micro version, where you're looking at one firm within a field, we're going to be looking at the entire economy. So we could be looking at the entire nation or the world economy in general. So we're going to talk a little bit about big measurement of economic output and income and maybe even prosperity if you want to go that far. And it's called the gross domestic product, or the GDP. And the question is, what is the gross domestic product? Well, it is the market value of all final goods and services produced within a country's national borders within a year. So primarily, a GDP is going to be looking at the output of just one nation. So we could be looking at the United States, and what we're looking at is all final goods, meaning like it's a good ready to go out to the consumers, or to service that is going to be utilized by the consumers. And we're going to total up all that dollar value, and that's going to determine our GDP. Okay, or the wealth of your nation. So, what things may be excluded from the GDP? And kind of give an example here. Well, intermediate products. These are products that are used in the production of a final good. So if you're looking at like an automobile, the automobile is a final good, but you could be looking at all the parts that go into the production of the car. That would be an intermediate product. Okay, those values could be counted twice. So we don't want to do that. We want to count the final good, and so that might be excluded from the GDP. Okay, secondhand sales. So anything that is sold as used furniture, used clothing, used books, whatever, that is not going to be counted into the GDP because there's no new production that's going to come out of this. All right. Non-market transitions. Okay. These are things that could be like on the black market. Okay. Or things that are maybe illicit because they're really difficult to measure and they really don't generate any kind of expenditures within the market. You cannot count that. Okay. And finally, transactions that are underground. An underground economy, as we were mentioning a little bit before, but again, really hard to measure, and then for the most part, they're not really socially acceptable. So, what are the limitations of GDP? Well, one, GDP tells us nothing about what makes up output. All right. It tells little about the impact of production on the quality of life. You could have a nation like China that is producing a lot of goods, but you could also look back on the workers in China, and you still have a lot of people that are living in poverty. All right. And then the third is some GDP is produced to control activities that provide little utility or satisfaction. So all of those are limitations. So list 5 measures of a national income. Okay, these are things that you could use to kind of determine that. Your GNP, this is your gross national product. These are things that are produced kind of like GDP, but rather than within a country, this could be within multiple nations. All right. So you could be like talking about like the automobile industry. Some of the things that go into making a car might be manufactured outside of the United States. For example, like airbags can come from Japan, but they could be put into a car that is produced in the United States. Okay. All that would be counted into the GNP. Okay. The net national product, or the NMP, the national income, or your NI, your personal income, which is one that we probably like to look at a little bit more here in the United States, because that's the money that you're taking home. And your disposable personal income, your DPI. This is money that you have after you have paid all of your personal expenses. This is money that you can blow on fun things. And that's important because some nations, it seems like the citizens have more money in their pockets that they can spend on things that they want, um, opposed to having to pay it out in taxes and such things. So you could have a nation that might have a very high personal income, like Norway. But because of the taxes that they pay, they may not have a lot of disposable personal income. And that's where the United States might have an edge. So all these kind of things are measure of a national income by all means. Um, what are the four sectors of the economy? You have the consumer sector, which is for your household. This would be kind of goods that could be produced for your home. That could be appliances, that could be furniture, entertainment items. Your investment sector, this is proprietorships, partnerships, corporations, money that I might invest in the stock market. That would be a part of this. There's a governmental sector. This is for your local, state, county, even federal government, the money that they're spending. And this could be like defense budgets or the budgets for your highway or health and all that. And then there's a foreign sector, all consumer and producers that are outside of our country, outside of the United States, would be part of the foreign sector. What is the output expenditure model? Okay, well, this is a macroeconomic model that is used to show the aggregate demand. Aggregate demand is basically the demand of the entire country, okay, by the consumer, investment, government, and foreign sectors. All that kind of wraps into that. All right, thank you very much.